I'm Louis Badalamenti, candidate for sheriff. About a week ago, a debate was held at the Belle High School Auditorium. A lot of truth came to light, facts, figures, and a lot of positions of various candidates were exposed. I'm paying to rebroadcast the highlights of that debate so you, the public, can be informed when you make your decision as to who you'll vote for as your sheriff. A sheriff who will be responsible for the lives, property taxes, and safety of 28,000 of our people. I ask that you consider my experience in business, financial management, and law enforcement, and to elect me as your sheriff on Saturday, October 24th. Please enjoy the highlights. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the candidates for sheriff and welcome them to the stage. Gerald Turlich, Mr. Jerry Turlich, Sheriff Lonnie Greco, Louis Badalamenti, Charles Gouy, Stephen Becknell, and Michelle Wilcox. So let's get started with our 2-minute introduction, and Mr. Jerry Turlich, please start.
I would like to thank everyone for coming here tonight. I would like to thank Patty for putting this on. I'd like to thank my family, my wife Poppy, and my kids. I thank y'all for coming and supporting me. My name is Jerry Turlich. I'm running for sheriff. Everybody in here has probably heard the phrase, there is truth in justice. Well, there is no justice when there is no truth. Or are we safe? Absolutely. But he says crime's down 17%. FBI stats prove otherwise. He promised not to fire any deputies, but he did. He said he opposes traffic cameras, but lobbied the council to put them in. He said he would fill the prison, but today it sits 90% vacant, with the burden on us, the taxpayers. He says the budget is in the black, but this year he borrowed $1.6 million to balance his budget, and they still had a deficit. In fact, the sheriff's office has run a deficit the last 3 years. In a recent forum, he stated that there weren't qualified people in Plaquemines Parish, so he reached out to other parishes to fill his administration. I strongly disagree. I know what works, I know what doesn't. I'm a 25-year veteran of the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office. I rose through the ranks under 4 different sheriffs. I started my career in corrections and rose to deputy chief. I spent 9.5 years on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, earning a top secret clearance. I worked with some very professional people, including CIA, State Department. It was a valuable learning experience. When Hurricane Katrina struck, I was over our disaster recovery center. For Hurricane Isaac, I was over all field operation. I have led during some very adverse conditions. In January 2014, I was promoted to deputy chief, where I was over all uniformed personnel. I have the leadership experience and I have the professionalism to get the job done as your next sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turlich. Sheriff Greco, your introductory comments.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sheriff Lonnie J. Greco. I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish over 53 years. I graduated from Belle Chase High School in 1981. I went to the LSU Academy in 1987, graduated basic LSU Police Training Academy, and been with the Sheriff's Office for the last 15.5 years. Before that experience, I also was a Director of Operations for the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office, where then I got most of my experiences, dealing with Katrina, Rena, and Cindy. I had a $14 million budget, 300 personnel, and 300 fine personnel that I had worked with. It gave me that opportunity when I got elected sheriff, and I was very honored when you elected me 4 years ago. When I've taken office, I had enough money to run for 30 days. We went ahead, checked out my budget. I cut $3.5 million out of it. That was fluff. 1 month later, I had Hurricane Isaac. Had to go borrow $6.7 million to go ahead and operate. And within almost 2 years' time, we are financially sound for the first time in 30.5 years. I'm happily married to my wife, Jody. I have a son, Lonnie, 26 years of age. I have a daughter, Catherine, she's 11. and I am the proud son of Lionel and Carol Lee Greco. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Badalamenti?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. Last time I was on this stage was 46 years ago when I graduated kindergarten here. That's right. I played the drums, too. I did pretty good at it, I think. I am proud to be here tonight before everyone, and I'd like to introduce my daughter, Tina Badalamenti, who's in the audience, and her half-sister, step-sister, Brittany, who's just like a daughter to me as well. I grew up in Oakville, Louisiana, grandson of Italian immigrants who came from Sicily with the clothes on their back. My mother and father owned a small country grocery store, which I grew up in, learned how to serve customers, learned how to respect people, and learned a hard work ethic. Because as a kid, when I was growing up and other kids were off for recreation, I was fixing dump truck tires, operating heavy equipment in my dad's business. He taught me how to work and how to work hard and a work ethic, and I thank God for him and my mother, and I'd like to credit them right now for that. Let's move forward to today. Look at all these candidates running for sheriff. I think we all share a common goal. That is to elect a new sheriff to replace a failed sheriff who has failed the community, who has failed himself, and will continue to fail unless we elect one of these other new candidates. Now I ask you to look at my qualifications. 11 years local law enforcement experience. I've worked under Barney Schonberg in the prison for 2 years. Served under Sheriff Hingle, who sent me through the academy in 1995. And after that, I worked in just about every department in the sheriff's office. Operating the sheriff's office daily functions is second nature to me. But let's look at the responsibility of a sheriff. It's not that of a cop. I'm proud to have been a cop. The job of a sheriff is to be a manager, an administrator, and a leader. Someone who can manage a multi-million-dollar budget, 226 men and women department. Someone who can turn a failed prison operation around. I just got the stop sign, so I don't want to be rude.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gouy.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to come listen to us tonight. My name is Charles Gouy, and I am a candidate for sheriff of Plaquemines Parish. I'm a native of Plaquemines Parish. I was born at the Old White Hospital in Port Sulphur in 1955. I grew up in Empire till Hurricane Betsy, and we moved down to Sunrise a couple of miles below between Empire and Buras, and I lived there for most of my younger days. In 1973, I graduated from Buras High School. Immediately after graduating, I enlisted in the United States Army, and I served a 3-year tour with the 1st Cavalry Division. I left the Army in 1976. In 1977, January, Sheriff Barney Schomburger hired me as a deputy. I worked for 4 sheriffs during my 35 years with the sheriff's office. I was a patrol deputy, a detective, ultimately became chief of detectives, the commander of special operations, the chief of operations for the sheriff's office, and when I retired in 2012, I held the post of chief criminal deputy. I'm married. My wife Sadie's here tonight with me. We have 2 children, 2 boys, 1 girl, 9 grandchildren, and on the 21st of this month, we're blessed with 2 brand new granddaughters. I have 17 years of administrative experience with the sheriff's office. In 1996, I was invited by Director Louis Freeh to attend the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I graduated with 243 other graduates from all over the world. The FBI Academy is the #1 premier academy for training law enforcement administrators. I believe that the citizens of Plaquemines Parish deserve the best sheriff they can have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Becknell, your introductory comments.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank the Plaquemines Parish Debate for hosting this event. This is a very special event. And I want to thank you, the law-abiding citizens of Plaquemines Parish, coming out and also supporting this and being a part of it. Because you know what? This is what it's all about. You know, we have to determine who is the best man to run this sheriff's office. Sorry, Michelle. Best person. Best person. All right. Sorry. I have 8 daughters, so I'm used to it. 6 daughters. 6 daughters. And I'm gonna submit to you tonight, I'm that man. I am that man. Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office is a multi-million dollar business. We serve and we protect. The corporations that I own is multi-million dollar businesses. And right now, I'm the only one that has that solid business background and law enforcement experience. I'm a proud veteran of the United States Marine Corps. After the Marine Corps service, I joined the Air National Guard for 12 years. I joined the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office in August of 2008 with the Reserve Division. First, I was a patrol, and then I was promoted to a narcotics agent. And then the last 2 years, I was asked to join the SWAT team. I was SWAT sniper. I'm running for this race right here by the urging of many members of this department. Morale's low. Promotions are based on who you know, not what you know. The pay scale is out of balance, and the list goes on and on. I can lead this department, and I'm asking you for that privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wilcox, your introductory comments.
Thank you. I am Michelle Champagne Wilcox, a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish, the daughter of Johnny and Sharon Champagne. I've been married for 28 years to my husband, Will Wilcox. We have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. After graduating from Archbishop Blank High School, I went on to study psychology and criminal justice at LSU for 2 years. I went and got my cosmetology degree, raised my family, and I went back to college in 2008 and completed my law enforcement degree. I have successfully owned and managed my own service-driven business for over 10 years. After Katrina, I closed the doors of my business and spent more time with my family and became more active in my community and parish government. I have managed 4 successful campaigns, including those of the current sheriff, parish president, state court judge, and state representative. I have 25 years of investigative experience. I have worked with local, state, and federal agencies in providing research, evidence, testimony, and as recent as 4.5 months ago, testified and worked with the Secret Service on the BP oil spill. I have also continued to work with an outreach program for the homeless. I've traveled this parish and talked to concerned citizens who share my concern that not enough is being done about the drug problem and domestic violence. Our drug abuse clinic that I want to have will be located down the road and one in Davant. We need to help the children get off of drugs, and we need to provide jobs to our community. We need to build up the East Bank down the road, and it has to start with cleaning up both the crime and the drugs. We need to protect our residents who are here, their lives and their livelihoods. We cannot afford to waste any time putting off the real hard work of the sheriff's office that needs to be done, whether it's street crimes, white-collar crime, domestic, or drugs. This election is about the people of Plaquemines Parish and what it is in their best interest. That is it, nothing more, nothing less. We could have million signs, 100 meet and greets, and 15,000 mail-outs, but our kids are dying from drugs, and we need to continue to fight crime that is filtering into our neighborhoods. Then, if we don't do that, what difference does all of this make? Just keep me in mind, Wilcox, number 71 on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilcox. Recently, Louisiana in particular, the New Orleans metro area, has seen a surge in heroin possession and other drug-related crimes. While Louisiana's prison population has doubled in the past few decades, leads the nation as a state with the highest incarceration rate. In your opinion, is longer prison sentences winning the war on crime? And what is your position on diverting offenders from prisons and jail into alternative settings and programs such as drug treatment and vocational rehab programs?
Drugs, not only in Plaquemines Parish, but as I go around the United States to different conferences, when I talk to all these chiefs and sheriffs, is the #1 issue in any town in the United States, including ours. But what people have to realize is that the sheriff's office is the one that starts the investigation. There's a 3-part process here. And I get the phone calls all the time about y'all arrest them and you let them go. Well, the sheriff's office arrests, and we're very aggressively working on the war on drugs in Plaquemines Parish. But the DA has to prosecute and present a case to the judges so he can go ahead and give them a sentence. But right now, what we have in Plaquemines Parish is a revolving door. And it can't continue. We need to have the quality of life.
Mr. Badalamenti?
There's no doubt our country leads the world in incarceration rates. And there's no doubt we need hard sentences for hardened criminals. I believe the focus needs to be on the smaller street user, speaking about our parish prisoners, because most of them are parish residents and nonviolent offenders. We need to focus on rehab, training. When they get released out of prison, they don't come back in. The revolving door, and that's what's been going on. We must institute VOTEC, GED, computer training, that when they get out of jail, they have a chance and hope to get a job so they don't wind up back in jail. But in short, I believe in long, hard sentences for drug dealers and more focus on rehabilitation on local parish inmates with small possessions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gouy?
Yes, heroin is definitely a problem in our community and the whole nation. The biggest concern I have is not the ones that go to jail, but the ones that are overdosing on the heroin. We need to stop the heroin trafficking. We need to do what we can to get the dealers off the street. As long as the dealers are out there, they will have customers. For the customers, we arrest them. They're sentenced by the courts to whatever sentence they are imposed. They either go to jail. They have a drug court where first offenders can come in and participate in the drug court program. They go through the program. Once they're completed, they're released back into society. They're drug tested, and I believe rehabilitation is important.
Mr. Becknell?
Yes, no doubt. We have to stop the drugs. But I want to take it a little different. I am a certified combat survival instructor. And in that world, it's just like this world. 95% of your success in surviving is your will to survive. These people, they have to have the will. Now, do you do that with VOTEC training, GED, jobs? Guess what? They've been trying, it's not working. So, put them in prison.
But I think longer prison sentences are not the answer. If you're not going to rehabilitate, reform, and educate them for first-time offenders, locking them up is only going to create more like an animal.
I had two personal friends that lost loved ones, one to crystal meth and one to heroin. So I think we need to start with prevention, and I think it starts with our kids. I think drug education for our kids needs to really be enhanced, and I also want to teach our parents, to teach them the sign, to give them the tools that they need to combat it at home, because I think that's where it starts.
The new jail on the east bank of the parish, some people are wondering how it will be utilized. Some are claiming that there's not a good plan for the jail. Expound upon your vision for the jail and your thoughts on the current operation.
They've been talking about using the jail for something other than what it was designed for. We can't do that. It's a jail. It's designed to house prisoners. So what we need to do as the sheriff's office is we need to look outside our borders to try to find prisoners from the Department of Corrections. We've housed them from the federal government for immigration and customs enforcement. We need to get these prisoners back in our jail. They're all minimum security. They're not flight risks per se. And the immigration ones, the only crime they committed is they're in the United States illegally.
Mr. Becknell?
Well, first off, I believe that the sheriff's office has lost its negotiating skills. You have to go to local, state, out-of-state prisons and talk to them and negotiate with them. But more importantly, I believe, we've lost our connection with Washington, D.C. I have spent, over the years in business, a lot of time on the Hill, negotiating with congressmen and senators, getting programs passed for the Defense Department and things like that. And that needs to be done. I was the first one to say that a week or two ago, and all of a sudden now I've heard 2 or 3 little blips from the other candidates about we need to do that. They're going to put a team together. You can't put a team together to do this. It'll cost you a fortune. You got to be able to do it yourself, and that's what I can do for the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office.
Ms. Wilcox?
The last sheriff's election, we did reach out to other parishes and state and federal officials to look for prisoners and get those communications working. However, it did not pan out for whatever reason.
10% occupancy. It starts with leadership. There isn't even a policy manual. Our current administration had 4 years to get it filled. Well, it isn't. That facility is the only one like it of its kind in the country. We need to market it aggressively, nationally, and fill it with federal inmates like it was designed to be filled with. I wanted to make PPSO self-sufficient. Thank you.
Sheriff Greco?
We are already in negotiations with Arkansas, legality-wise. My attorneys and their attorneys are going back and forth to go ahead and try to look at housing 500 extra additional prisoners. At the present time, we got 135. But what a lot of these gentlemen up here don't understand is you just can't go over there and grab them and bring them across. There are laws that you have to comply with. We have been doing so. And to tell you the truth, the sheriff's office, when he opened up the prison, was just last year, so we haven't had 4 years to try to fill it. We just opened it up February of 2014. I have 135 in there right now, and we are already negotiating.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Badalamenti?
What Mr. Greco is not telling you is that he's had to seek a loan in the amount of $4 million that's been approved by the State Bond Commission. He says he's the first sheriff in 30.5 years to balance the budget. He's being dishonest with you, and he knows that. The documents speak for themselves. You can go to my Facebook page, they're posted. The documents clearly read they are for costs associated with the prison and current expenses. The reason the prison has been a failure is because Mr. Greco has surrounded himself with the most unqualified, overpaid group of people. Immediately, we need to restaff the current administration, start negotiations, not with states, because those guys only pay about $30 a day. Federal detainees, as the prison designed for, pays close to $60 a day. We must get a lobbyist working in Washington, D.C. to lobby for prison contracts, and we must start negotiating with some other private prison companies who have existing contracts with the federal government to house federal detainees as the prison designed for.
What is your position on enforcing the animal cruelty that goes on in the parish, such as companion animals left on chains without access to food, water, or shelter, as well as the increase in dog and cockfighting?
That's an interesting question. I mean, really. You know, I'm interested in it. I love dogs and cats and animals and everything right now, but my focus in my life is to protect these people. I don't like to see that. Does the animal come underneath me? I mean, really? Does it? It does? Okay, well, and I guess I'm gonna have to beef that up. You know, we're gonna go after it.
If you ever look at the profiles of serial killers, rapists, they have a history of animal abuse first. So I wouldn't just shake it off.
Well, I'm also an animal lover. We have multiple animals. We got turtles, fish, dogs. I mean, we pretty much have it all. I have participated in all the events that Paul's put on. I think it's an outstanding advocate for animals, and they're doing a good job. And I will prosecute anybody who does commit cruelty to animals.
Sheriff Greco?
Yes, whenever we get those type of complaints, we do investigate it properly.
Badalamenti?
As a chief law enforcement officer and your sheriff, I will enforce all the laws, even against animals, just as we protect people. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the founding members of the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office Mounted Division, where I served under Sheriff Hinkle 5 years. I'm an equestrian trainer and rider. I'm also a canine handler. I love animals, and I will protect animals and enforce the laws as they're written on the books.
Thank you, sir.
I will continue to work with animal groups and their right groups, and we'll do whatever's necessary to stop the cruelty to these animals.
Is there wasteful spending in the sheriff's office, and if so, what is your plan to eliminate it?
Yes, there is wasteful spending in the sheriff's office. I plan on taking it out of the upper rank, cutting it down, and putting it into our road deputies. Our deputies deserve more money, plain and simple. We need more community policing. We have a drug problem. Our kids are dying. We need to put them in the community and let them do their job. When you get them, these kids, do your job. Don't just, the less community policing we have, the more drug problems we're gonna have. So I would put the money back into the deputies.
Mr. Turlich?
Yeah, I'm going to also reduce the upper rank. Our jailers make $1,667 a month. That's below poverty.
Sheriff Greco?
No, we do not have no wasteful spending within the sheriff's office. We have a balanced budget for the first time in 30.5 years. And you know the thing is, these ladies and gentlemen here that's on this stage, they all running for sheriff, and I understand where they need to go with it. But for the first time in the history of the sheriff's office, the last 30.5 years, we balanced our budget for the first time.
Each time a new sheriff takes office, they must balance their budget before the new sheriff takes over. So that was 4 years ago, the budget had to be balanced. In regard to how the sheriff's office is being operated, it's the most top-heavy department I've seen. Everything is lopsided. We've got an out-of-parish, Jefferson Parish attorney who runs a full-time Jefferson Parish law practice in Metairie while he earns a full-time salary from Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office, $100,750 a year. We've got a former Jefferson Parish Desk Sergeant earning $102,882 a year. We've got a former sheriff still on the payroll as a personal advisor earning $71,500 a year. I could go on, but I'm going to run out of time. We need to eliminate the political cronies, abolish cronyism, put qualified local people in these top positions, eliminate the positions we don't need, and take that money and savings and put it in the pockets and paychecks of the deputies.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gouy.
Why is the sheriff's office spending so much money on administration? It's a matter of philosophy. As your sheriff, I will see to it that the top administrators are not as abundant as they currently are. We need people that can multitask. The chief deputy can handle many duties besides just being a chief deputy. The district commanders, they have their work cut out for them. The warden has his work cut out. However, upper rank needs to be able to accomplish more than just one thing.
The Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office is a business, protect and serve. Right now, it is not built on a good business model. It is an inverted pyramid. That's not the way you do it. You got to set it up as a pyramid, you know. You have to take care of the deputies and the support staff. I don't hear everybody talks about the deputies. Everybody talks about the support staff. You get support staff that are not post-certified. They can come into the office and take care of those office jobs and get more deputies on the street. You know, I run a successful business on little bitty principles.
Let's talk about juveniles. Do you support the assignment of a specialized juvenile investigative division, which would investigate crimes against juveniles and crimes committed by juveniles? And speaking of juveniles, there was a local health center that works with juveniles claiming that officers are not trained in juvenile law, which is, of course, separate from adult law. One supposedly didn't even know that the age of an adult status starts at 18.
Yes, I will definitely re-implement the juvenile division. It was abolished under the current administration. I think juvenile law is very intricate. It's ever-changing. When the guys get a call on juvenile matters, they're shaking in their boots.
Sheriff Greco?
No, I will not reinstitute a juvenile division.
Badalamenti?
The word juvenile, such a harsh word, juvenile.
Yeah.
They are children, your friends and neighbors' children. And handling children and juveniles is a very specialized part of law enforcement. And yes, I will immediately institute a qualified juvenile officer to handle these affairs. So these children are handled appropriately. They're not mistreated, their rights aren't violated, but they are handled like they need to be handled if they break the law. And as far as the current sheriff's office with juveniles, there's a recent case right now that's going on where people's house has been shot up. I've seen the bullet holes myself. And they suspect certain juveniles. Nothing's been done. In fact, when the investigator came out and played the videotape that the victim had, they brought it back. It was replaced with pornography. That's what our sheriff's office is doing now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gouy?
To me, it doesn't matter if you have 57 juvenile arrests or 5 a year. It's still our children out there. And I believe they should be handled as juveniles. They need to have a trained juvenile detective whose job it is to make sure these children, their rights are protected and they're handled properly. At 17, you become an adult under the criminal statutes. However, as long as you're under 18, you're still under the control of your parents. So at 17, they may go to jail as an adult, but they can't leave home on their own. The juvenile division is a must. We need the juvenile officers. We need someone that's going to go out there and work with the district attorneys and the juvenile court system.
We've got to start earlier with the DARE program. This is so very specialized, but it's very important because that is the future. You know, it's a revolving cycle. We got to stop it. We got to be aggressive at it.
I mentored quite a bit of troubled teens, even ended up raising one. Many hours that it took. We need a very specialized unit, and we have to invest the money and the time into the professionals that we need to give the juveniles their help. We need to do it now rather than later. If not, we'll spend money later either burying them or incarcerating them for the rest of their life. So I would rather invest now.
Let's talk about the purchase of the new sheriff's building, and that's, of course, on Belle-Chasse Highway. While some say it's a good thing in that it consolidates so many scattered police office buildings, Others are saying that it'll cost more than having remodeled the old state school buildings on F. Edward Hebert. Please explain.
When I first came in office, they brought me back to the back by the state school. They wanted this sheriff's department to spend $10.5 million on buildings back there that I knew they had asbestos in it for 53,000 square feet. I objected. I told them it wasn't going to happen. Then as I was coming back to my office, me and my attorneys, I looked at that building at Regions Bank and I said, you know, they got a big Felice sign on it. Just go take a look at it and see what's what. Come to find out the building sold for $875,000. We went and got the assessed value. It was $3.4 million. And I told my attorney, I said, go find out who bought the building, and I would like to go ahead and try to purchase it myself. The gentleman declined several times, and then once I got it to $2 million, he agreed. I went ahead and got capital outlay money, thanks to Mr. Ernest Wooten and Dr. David Heitmeyer, for $1.89 million, I'm sorry. And then my cost share was $900,000 for the 25% match. But this building didn't cost the parish government $1. I relieved them of their duties in the financial crisis that they have today. The taxpayers will never have to ever pay for it again because we have a great financial institution in there called Regions Bank who pays our note monthly.
All right, Mr. Badalamenti.
Now I'm going to tell you the truth about the Regions Bank building. Because 4 years ago, when I helped Mr. Greco run his campaign, after he was elected, before he was sworn in, when he was sheriff-elect, he called me up. He says, Louie, I need you to advise me on a real estate deal. Can you come meet with me and Mr. Freddie Yorst and Senator Heitmeyer? I said, sure thing. I go to the meeting that night, and Sheriff Greco is telling Senator Heitmeyer, who was there, to say, I've got a $2 million grant that can be used to build a building, buy a building, or renovate a building for law enforcement purposes. Lonnie Greco was telling them, well, I want to buy the old food stamp house from Frank Patty and Wayne Jordana for $900,000. I said, wait a minute, Lonnie, that's a bad buy. Too much for the building. The buildings need a renovation, not enough lot to expand, not enough parking. Most of all, it's on a slab built on grade. I personally told Mr. Greco, though at that time the Regions Bank building was for sale for between $750,000 and $800,000, and he could spend about $600,000 on the renovations and have change left over to do something else with. And as far as it not costing the taxpayers a dime, it's your federal tax money that's been spent on it. And in addition to that, he spent another $2.8 million in a renovation
Thank
cost.
you, sir. Mr. Gooey?
I have to agree that the Regions Bank building is a very nice facility. It was originally dedicated funds for a training center. Apparently, the training center has now become an administrative building also and a bank. I did not realize the sheriff's office was in a real estate business. I thought we were a government agency and we weren't supposed to be turning a profit. Owning a bank building and collecting rent on it makes us landlords. It makes us liable for whatever happens in that bank also. I believe the money could have been spent better on our own building. The renovation of it was almost as much, if not more, than what the actual cost of the building was. And I find that to be ridiculous.
Wow, this is amazing to me. I had nothing to do. I didn't know about the inner workings of this real estate deal. I really don't. I find it interesting that the state school property has asbestos in it and SWAT trains in it twice a month. Thanks a lot. Should have known that a little bit better. I think also that we should have built our own building. You know, you can build what suits to you nowadays with the economy the way it is. I think you can build it for a lot less money. And some people won't make so much money off
I think
it.
what the building was bought for with Highway 23 LLC for $756,000, and then we turned around and pay $1.8 million. I'd like to know where the rest of the money went, because when you have a grant for that amount of money, state or federal, it has to be used for the law enforcement structure. I know the grant, David Heitmeyer talked to me about it, wanted me to talk to Lonnie about it, but way before Louie got involved, it was supposed to be used for just that. I know that something's not kosher about it because I know someone's not running for office because of it, because I've been questioned. So I'd like to know where the rest of the money is.
Have you or any member of your immediate family been arrested on a valid offense of any nature, yes or no, and if so, why?
I was arrested approximately 35 years ago. A cousin of mine and I had a family dispute, They had abandoned a barge on property owned by my mother and father. My father was actually deceased at the time. My mother wanted the barge moved because a child from Oakville had drowned jumping off the barges in the area. I contacted a scrap cutter to come cut it up and remove it. Months later, my cousin shows up. He was upset about it. He went to the Justice of the Peace and pressed charges, and Mr. Greco came to my house and arrested me. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah. But needless to say, it was unfounded, and it was discharged and thrown out of court, and I've never had any legal issues since then.
Thank you. Mr. Gooey.
That's a hard act to follow. But
Oh, man.
to the best of my knowledge, no one in my family has ever been arrested, and I haven't been.
Becknell.
I have not been arrested. None of my children have been arrested.
Ms.
so
Wilcox.
thank God.
That's a tricky question for me because I've been told that I've been arrested. I've been told that my son has been arrested. However, I've never seen the inside of a jail prison. I was never handcuffed, arrested, although my face appeared on TV. I had a phone call from the district attorney's office telling me, don't worry, you weren't really arrested. Well, it's a good thing because I was in Balestras. So, no, I was never arrested. In fact, the state police are doing their own investigation on that retaliation, and that's where I'll leave it. Thank you.
Mr. Turlich.
Yes, my youngest stepson got arrested. And I'm going to tell you, that's why I'm so passionate about pushing my DARE program, my juvenile officers, because it has hit home. And I'm going to tell you what, and that's why I want to do parental education. A kid goes to school with a bag of Adderall, his medicine for ADD, and what he does, he gives them out to kids, his friends. He gives them all out. Now, some of them didn't even take them, but he had it.
Should patrol lieutenants be required to be working officers, such as writing reports, making arrests, answering 911 calls, etc.?
Absolutely. They are supervisors, but they're still deputy sheriffs, and I believe they should be doing the same job as their road deputies under them do.
All right, sir. Mr. Becknell.
Oh, absolutely. How can you lead if you don't participate? Some people are saying I got brought too many people in from the outside into this department. Well, let me tell you what. Some of those guys that came in here, they did a good job. They brought experience and knowledge that we didn't actually have at the time.
Yes, I do think that they should do their own reports, that they should participate. You have to lead by example, and you can get the job done, and you can show them that you can do it, then they're not too good to do it as well.
Absolutely. I have always led. I made the largest cocaine bust in Plaquemines Parish history as a sergeant in 1996. They were running an operation out of the Paradise Apartments right there on Barrier Road. I stopped them, I want to say, I forget the time, but it was late, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And they had a torn temp tag. They were from out of state. I saw some suspicious activity. Backseat passenger moved from one side to the other. He wanted to run. I called Eunice to back me up, get him out. He pushed me in my chest, took off running, ripped open his starter jacket, and a pound of cocaine fell out, or a kilo of cocaine fell out. I was out there with a shop vac trying to get it out the rocks, and I ended up recovering probably 12.5 ounces of it.
Sheriff Greco.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be work reports also, besides.
And Mr. Badalamenti.
Everybody in the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office should work hard, from corrections officers up to the sheriff. And the sheriff, I can promise you, I will outwork any of these candidates up here. My normal work week is 80 to 100 hours a week. I'm going to lead by example and command the sheriff's office force to work and give the public what the public is due, protection, whether it be hurricane, traffic incidents, wrecks, juvenile incidents. Everybody's going to work and going to work hard.
All right, sir. Thank you. Now, in this segment of the debate, we're going to give the candidates a chance to ask one other candidate a question. Mr. Becknell.
You know what, actually, I haven't built my life on asking questions for people's mistakes, so I'm not going to ask a question.
Ms. Wilcox.
I too am not going to ask a question. I think we all up here are adults, and we already know the answers to these questions, so I have nothing to ask.
Crime went up 2%. How do you account for the fact that you are stating crime is down when actually it went up? And I'm going from 2011, just last full year in office.
All right, Sheriff, you have a minute.
Yeah, well, in 2011, they had 768 crimes, And since I've taken office in July 2012, was 696, was a drop in crime. 2013 and 2014 was 620, another drop in crime. In July of 2014 and 2015, 635, which gave me that little spike of 15 crimes, but it only gave me 2.4%. So fiscally, since I've been sheriff, we're down 17.3%. If you go annually, we're down 13%. But since we operate off of fiscally, I'm at 17.3% drop in crime in Plaquemines Parish, and it's below historically since I've been sheriff.
Okay, you have a redirect, 15 seconds.
I strongly disagree. In the year he took office, we can't put it all on the sheriff because it was actually half of Jiff and half of Lonnie, but it actually spiked up. And I'm getting my stats from Crime in Louisiana 2011. This report was prepared by the Louisiana Sheriff's Association.
Okay. All right, and you have 30 seconds to respond, Sheriff.
This is the FBI Uniform Crime Report. This is where I get my numbers from, and I report them just as I get them.
Okay, Sheriff Greco, it's now your opportunity to ask a question to another candidate.
I decline to ask anyone a question. I respect each and every one of them up here, including Ms. Wilcox.
Mr. Badalamenti?
I have a question for Mr. Turlich. I think the public, the majority of the public agrees that the administration of the current sheriff's office needs to be changed. We all know that the administration has failed in many ways. I want to know, how do you plan on staffing that administration, and will you, in any way, shape, fashion, or form, employ either full-time, part-time, or through contract the following people: Brian Boudreaux, Attorney Freddie Yorsh, former Jefferson Parish Detective George King, Mike Mudge, or former Sheriff Ernest Whoop.
Mr. Turlich, you have a minute there to respond.
That was a lot of questions. Repeat the first part of it. That was a lot of questions. I was trying to write the name.
Go ahead.
Let me clarify.
Mr. Badalamenti.
Jerry, what I want to know is your plan on how you are going to replace the current administration. Not asking names who you replace them with, but how you replace them to fix the administrative problems. Okay. And will the following people be employed by the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office in any way, shape, fashion, or form, either full-time, part-time, or through any type of compensation? Former Desk Sergeant Brian Boudreaux, Jefferson Parish Attorney Freddie Yorsh, former Jefferson Parish Detective George King, Mike Mudge, former Sheriff Ernest Whoop.
Okay, sir. You have a minute, Mr. Turlich.
Okay. I'm going to evaluate all personnel. I'm not just limited to them. I want to evaluate all 234 employees, see who's doing their job. I know I've worked with some of them. I know what some of them do. Some of them people might be replaced. I don't want to get up here and tell you who my administration is right now. I think that I'm going to keep that close to vest.
Jerry, I'm looking for a yes or no answer on the following people, because they're part of the failed administration.
How many questions?
And when your Saints
team...
team...
You got 4 or 5
okay, you just have
questions.
15 seconds to redirect, okay?
When your favorite NFL team's not winning, they put a new quarterback in. We want to know who's the quarterback's going to be for the sheriff's.
All right.
Or will any of these folks be in?
You have 30 seconds to answer however you want.
I'm going to do it on, I'm going to evaluate each and every one of my personnel, Louis. So I don't know.
Candidates, how do you plan on decreasing the amount of fatalities on Highway 23? And Ms. Wilcox, we'll start with you.
Well, first and foremost, we need more presence. We need more deputies on the road. We need people in strategic areas. Everybody knows Gretna Boulevard. No one speeds down Gretna Boulevard because there's maybe a cop there. It's been like that for years. We need the same presence on Highway 23 because it is such a freeway. So I would increase the deputies on the highway.
Thank you. Mr. Turlich?
Again, I believe officer presence is the most viable option there. I think the more people you have on Highway 23, the slower the traffic's going to be. So I also believe if you write enough tickets, they're going to slow down. And I think right now, life's so fast-paced, I think everybody needs to slow down.
Mr. Badalamenti?
Obviously, officer presence is a wonderful thing, and that's what we need. But LA 23 is a state highway. We need to get the commander to step up to the plate and send more state police down here to help the local deputies. Because with a 4-man shift, when an accident happens, that takes them off the street. They can't patrol your neighborhoods. Also, children and adults with texting and telephone use on the phone. We've got to educate these kids. I have a daughter I preached almost every day. Please don't text and drive. Please don't talk on the phone while you're driving. So we need to get this into our minds of our children and work on improving that, awareness for that, and obviously officer presence, and get the state police to use some of their funds to help us out and back us up.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gouy?
I believe our deputies, they do a fine job on the street. They do what they can to reduce accidents. But until the public is educated and they don't drive distracted, accidents can happen anywhere at any time, either on LA 23. We've had them happen in 15-mile speed zones in our neighborhoods. People have been killed by automobile accidents. It's a matter of paying attention when they're driving.
Thank you. Mr. Becknell?
More deputies on the street, of course. We've got to get more eyes out there. I remember when I was in patrol, and we have to stop this changing of how many tickets we're going to write depending upon what time of the year it is or how close it is to an election. You know, that's got to change. Look at Golden Meadow. Man, if it's 15 miles an hour, don't go 60. You're going to get stopped. It should be like that out here.
Mr. Turlich, we'll start with you here. As a candidate for sheriff, you should already have a person that you want selected, in your mind at least, for chief deputy. Please tell us the name of him or her and why that person would make a good chief deputy.
All right. I would choose Mike LaFrance. He's been here, I want to say 29 years. He's been an acting sheriff, so how can you get any more experience than having an acting sheriff as your chief deputy?
I have a current chief right now, Brian Boudreaux, and that's who I'm sticking with.
If you are reelected, are you planning on making any changes to your top personnel?
I'll have to go ahead and take that under advisement for right now and then take a look at it once we get reelected.
One of the biggest complaints I hear while I walk through the public is that the current chief deputy is trying to run the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office like Jefferson Parish. Well, Plaquemines is unique. It's not Jefferson Parish. I've made no promises to anyone from any positions. I will appoint a chief deputy based on qualifications, local residency, and their proven past performance.
Mr. Gouy?
Yes, I haven't selected a chief deputy if I get elected yet.
Mr. Becknell?
Yes, I have selected a number 2, but I'm not telling you who it is. Sorry.
Yes, I too have chosen someone who has a great deal of law enforcement experience and has a great deal of integrity. However, I am not going to reveal the name as I do not want any retaliation against anyone.
What is your feeling about police body cameras? Do you think that this is beneficial in police work? And is this something you would look to expand the use of in Plaquemines Parish? Mr. Badalamenti?
Absolutely in favor of body cameras. With the amount of liability that the sheriff's office has when they put an officer on the street, lawsuits, wind up in millions of dollars of judgments, we have to stop that. We have to protect our officers and protect the citizens, make sure their civil rights are not violated. Absolutely, I'm in favor of body cameras for all officers working the streets.
Mr. Gouy?
Absolutely. Our officers need the most protection they can get.
In one of the debates before, that question was asked, and I said no. Then I started thinking about it. My no was on the tactical side, you know. And I thought about it the other day, I said yes. But I would require body cameras with sound, because cameras, a video camera, can record something and it can be misinterpreted. So I would do body cameras with sound. Thank you.
Yes, I do support the body cameras, mostly for the safety of the deputies.
Originally, in some of the other debates, I did say no, but we couldn't explain why.
We're now going to move to our final segment, our closing statements. We'll give each candidate 2 minutes to make those closing statements. Mr. Turlich?
Deciding to run for sheriff was not an easy decision on me or my family. I've dedicated my life to law enforcement in Plaquemines Parish. I love and believe in this parish. We have great schools, and we are safe. And we're safe because of the hard-working men and women of our sheriff's office. I've worked with them for 25 years. We've led the metropolitan area in low crime ever since I've been on, and probably 25 years before that. Honesty and integrity set us apart. Like I said, $1.6 million deficit. I will post all of my budgets online and bring true transparency. As sheriff, I will bring seniors and law enforcement together in innovative ways, protecting our seniors. I will be more aggressive on drugs with a stronger cross-trained Marine and narcotics unit. And I will have a more in-depth education program on the dangers of drugs for our children and our parents. I will ramp up patrols in your neighborhoods, and I will institute proven community policing tactics. I will give deputies a clear path to advancement based on merit. I will give them opportunity to rise through the ranks. I will absolutely promote from within, and that will improve morale. My plan is comprehensive, thorough, and I'm asking for your vote. Early voting does start tomorrow, and I am Jerry Turlitz, number 70. Thank y'all for coming out tonight.
Badalamenti.
You know, it's easy to sit up here and read a prepared script. It's another thing to be a leader and be a sheriff. I believe I possess the unique skill set to be a great sheriff, a sheriff whose legacy will live on to make my great-grandchildren proud, to be an example and inspire other law enforcement officers and future sheriffs of our parish. Mr. Becknell and I are the only two candidates that have the combined experience in business and law enforcement, and I commend him for running. I managed over $100 million in government contracts without a single mention of impropriety. I dealt with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the colonel level, Louisiana Department of Transportation Development, traveled to out of state Louisiana. I have the ability to get things done in government. As my law enforcement experience, I led the department several years in taking criminals off the streets. Received 3 commendations from Sheriff Hingle for going above and beyond the call of duty. I'm proud of those achievements, and I want to continue those achievements as your sheriff. I love you, the people of Plaquemines Parish. You are the salt of the earth, and I'm so proud to be here. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Patty, for hosting the debate tonight, and Jeff Correa. I am Michelle Wilcox. When it comes to qualifications for sheriff, please do not misconstrue the fact that I have never worn a badge with the lack of experience. I have been serving the people of this community as many years as these guys, or perhaps more effectively, because I have been able to do so without retaliation. See, my opponents have been paid to do their job, and they do it well, but they are paid. I have served countless people in our parish who were afraid to bring issues to law enforcement or parish government officials. I have just not been paid for it. I have performed diligent investigations and exposed corruption to bring transparency to our parish. I have worked with and earned the respect of former Councilman Burkhardt Turner and other law enforcement agencies in the Tri-Parish area. I have never felt that I needed a badge or a title to do what is right or just. I also feel that my opponents have all worked for both the previous sheriff as well as our current sheriff, and we cannot afford more of the same. We need a fresh new change and one who is not indoctrinated by the current system. I want to continue in my service as your next sheriff so that I can better affect change and bring accountability to our parish, sheriff's office, and parish government. As a woman, I feel that we are more compassionate to the needs of our children, the serious problems that they face with the drugs and domestic violence. And as a woman and a mother, I am trying to help rehabilitate, reform, educate these troubled youths instead of locking up first-time offenders and throwing away the key. I am going to give them the help that they deserve and in my quest to stop repeat offenders. This is why I am adamant about the Juvenile Division, Drug Rehab Center, and the Domestic Violence Unit. They are imperative to our community's recovery. The role of sheriff involves many different tasks. There is no one better than a woman to take on this role, as we are the masters of multitasking. Vote Wilcox, number 71, on Election Day.
Mr.
Thank
Becknell.
you.
Well, this has been interesting, hasn't it? I want to thank you all again for being here tonight. You know, it makes the campaign really worthwhile. And my goodness, what an experience this has been. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we have very talented and committed men and women and support staff out there making our parish relatively safe. You know, like any other business, though, you got to keep moving. You got to tweak it. You got to make it better, and it can be made better. And I can do that. I can improve this. No matter what Mr. Greco tells you, morale is at its all-time low. You know, the pay scale is out of whack. When you have 2 deputies that have the same amount of time on the job and they got 2 different pay scales, what's wrong with that? There's something wrong with that. You know, there's no real guidelines for promotion. As I said before, it's not what you know, it's who you know. As your next sheriff, I will move swiftly to restore morale. I will. It's very important to me. I'll develop an equitable pay scale, and promotions will be earned, not given. I will beef up narcotics units, and I'll work tirelessly to improve the first responders. no matter what type it is. And the last thing I want you to remember is this. I made a choice. I never took one campaign dollar from my campaign fund from anybody out there, and I'm looking at a couple of you out there. Thank you for trying, but no. Because if I take your money, I owe you a favor. And that's the problem with the sheriff's office. I always make people giggle when I say, I want to take the politics out of the sheriff's office in Southeast Louisiana. It's funny, I know, but guess what? It can be done, and I can do it. Thank you. Vote number 66, Steve Becknell for sheriff.
Mr. Gouy.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. The citizens of Plaquemines Parish deserve a sheriff's office that's committed to its citizens. They deserve to be treated fairly and with respect. With that being said, the deputies, on the other hand, need to be treated the same way. They need to be treated fairly. They need to be treated with respect. They need to be treated as adults, not as children. They're professionals. They're out there doing a very difficult job. I know because I've done that job. I've been an administrator in the sheriff's office for 17 years. I work to protect our deputies. If our deputies are protected, they will work to protect the citizens of this parish. I've served almost all my adult life in public service. First as a soldier in the United States Army, and 35 years as a deputy sheriff for Plaquemines Parish. I have the experience, the commitment, and the desire to be your next sheriff. Early voting starts tomorrow, ends the following Saturday, and October 24th is Election Day. When you go to the polls, please consider voting for number 68, Charles Gouy, for sheriff. Thank you.
Sheriff Greco.
4 years ago, I gave you 4 promises. Transparency, got over 250 media releases to make sure to educate you what's going on in your community. Traffic division, instituted last year. We are out there on the streets constantly doing our jobs. Fiscal accountability, balanced budget for the first time in 30.5 years. In community services, I got over 9 programs for our adults. You're looking for our seniors, and you're looking for our children. It's easy to say all these things that you hear tonight, but I've done my job as sheriff, keeping you safe. How many of you, when you go to the grocery store, when you come out, you got a gun sticking in your face, or your car is stolen out the parking lot? I don't have a murder at all in Plaquemines Parish right now. New Orleans got 150. We got 0. Jefferson Parish has several. We have 0. And St. Bernard has several, and we have 0. I have done my job keeping you safe as sheriff of Plaquemines Parish. You can put a check mark on every one of them that I promised you. That was promises made, it was promises kept. And I will continue serving you wholeheartedly and do diligently and work as hard as I've been working for the last 3.5 years. I appreciate you supporting me and re-electing me as your sheriff, number 67, this October.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to join me in thanking all of these candidates for offering themselves for public service and for being here tonight. Thank you all. I also want to thank all of you for attending. These debates will be available on the website and on New Wave Channel 15, October 13th through the 15th at 6 p.m. I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank Patty McCarty for all her hard work in putting this together. Join me in thanking Patty. Our timekeeper, Terry Petrillo. Thank you, Terry. And good evening, everyone, and don't forget to go vote.
I hope you've enjoyed the highlights of the debate. A lot of information came to light, information that should concern you, particularly the restaffing of the current failed administration that was appointed 4 years ago by Mr. Greco, and which Mr. Turlich was a part of. I believe that if elected sheriff, Mr. Turlich will keep most of the same people in that administration, the administration that has failed our parish. We have a prison that's failed. It's losing about $2 million per year. Sheriff Greco just had to make arrangements for a $4 million loan through the State Bond Commission. In addition to the prison failure, we've got the Regions Bank issue that was subject to a $2 million flip deal where out-of-parish investors lined their pockets with $1.2 million of our tax money. And Mr. Greco knew the building was for sale for $750,000, $800,000 because I personally told him. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the candidate. I am the only candidate that can and will deliver the change that the people of our parish want and deserve. I believe I will be a great sheriff, a sheriff whose legacy will live on to make my great-grandchildren proud, to inspire future law enforcement officers and sheriffs of our parish. Please consider my qualifications and elect me as your sheriff on October 24th. Thank you, and God bless you.